Of the section. Today, our talk is going to be on one of the volumes of Annie Besant called The Seven Bodies by Vibha Saksena, who actually doesn't need an introduction, but for the people who may be joining here today, I would like to introduce her. She is a shining new star of Theosophical Society who became a member in 2015 and is presently the secretary of the Noida Lodge, also the president of the Delhi TOS, Theosophical Order of Service in India. She was appointed the national lecturer this year in January. Congratulations, Vibha, for that. She is an IT engineer and also holds a master's degree and in computer science. Some time back, she gave up her corporate work and has been working with children, teaching them things connected to computers. Since her school days, she's been fascinated with these kinds of existential questions and delved into Vedanta and Shaivism until something, of course, drew her to Theosophy, and she has found her home in that. Some very profound words that she has said, which I don't know whether others have introduced her with, which I feel very inspired by when I read her introduction. She says that transitioning from a career-oriented worldly life to a spiritually awakened life, she believes the greatest service one can do for the world is self-transformation. So I think these are very profound words, and ultimately that has to be our first goal, is to transform ourselves. I won't hold you any further. Let's start the session. Please start, Vibha ma'am.
Thank you, Vimalji, for that introduction, and a very good morning and warm greetings to all of you. So yes, I feel that self-transformation is the biggest service because it has a domino kind of effect. When you come in touch with other people, you help to transform them also. So let us begin today's session. Today we are starting this book study of Dr. Annie Besant, which is The 7 Principles of Man. So I have a small presentation on this. I will share my screen. Okay, I hope this is visible to all.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this is actually 7 Principles of Man. This is one of the first of the 7 manuals. So in Theosophic literature, we have these 7 manuals which were composed by Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater, because most of the members at that time, they found the teachings which were given in the Secret Doctrine and in the Mahatma letters, they were very abstruse. They were difficult for the common people to follow. So they simplified it, and to ease the understanding of people, they have written these 7 manuals. And even now they are very relevant. A newcomer in the society or even the old members, like if they go through these, the basic concepts, they are very nicely explained. So we have completed, I think already a few studies on the other manuals have been taken. And we will begin with the first manual today, the 7 Principles of Man. So in this book, Annie Besant, she has given a small introduction of all the 7 principles of man. Then she has explained each principle in detail, the dense physical body and the etheric double. The third one, that is the pran, and then the desire body, the 4th principle. These 4 principles constitute our lower personality, that is the quaternary, the lower 4 principles. Then the 5th principle is Manas, which is the real man. And then she speaks about the subtle forms of the 4th and 5th principle. 4th, that is the desire body or the principle of calm. And the 5th, that is Manas. So that is very interesting. We will have a look at that. And then the last, the spiritual principles, which are Atma Buddhi. That is the 6th and the 7th principle. So as I told you that these books, these manuals, they were written first of all to ease the understanding, to make the teachings simpler. And I feel that the main purpose of this book, it helps us to understand that we are more than our physical body. It is not just what we talk and what we do with, and we as a person, but our constitution is much more than this. We persist even after the death of this physical body. And also this book will throw light on some of the occult facts which help to dispel superstition and misconception. So we will see how that happens. So let us begin with this introduction of the 7 principles of man. Now, Theosophy tells us that everything in the universe is septenary. So also the constitution of man, that is also septenary. And the real man is not regarded as this body that we see, but it is the spirit. That is our true self. And that is why we are immortal. One thing, so before I begin this study, I want to bring to your notice, or just to remind all of us, that Madame Blavatsky has said whenever we undertake any study of these theosophical concepts, we must always remember in mind that the background for all of this is the one reality, the one undivided spirit, the absolute reality. And there is, so that unity means that there is no actual division or separation on the plane of reality. But what we see here on the manifested plane, it appears separateness. And then we try to study that thing which is separate. But in our mind, we must keep this as a backdrop that on the plane of reality, everything is one. So with that concept in mind, we should remember that man, when he is regarded as the spirit, he is regarded as a ray of God, spark of divine fire. And this spirit is universal. It is not different in you or me. It is the same. But this ray or spark, it becomes individual. So that constitutes individual people, the personalities. In spite of that, because it is a spark of the divine, it reflects the divine perfection. In essence, it is the same. So this it is mentioned like this is the son who grows into the likeness of his father. So how does it become individual? It becomes individual by clothing itself in garment after garment. So these garments are the vehicles or the bodies of man. And each garment is of a different grade of matter, the different region of the universe. So different region means not any geographical region, it means different grade of matter, which belongs to the different planes. And through these garments, he is able to gain experience of all the objects of that region. He is able to come in contact with that region and gain knowledge of it. So in this way, by gaining experience, the latent potentialities of the spirit, they become active powers on that plane. Now, at this stage of evolution, few of these potentialities, few of these powers, they are manifested, but many of them are latent. So at present, this part of his nature, which is manifest and latent in the vast majority of people. So this is the cycle of evolution. As we progress spiritually, as we progress in the cycle of evolution, our consciousness and powers will be expanded more and more, and they will be manifest on this plane. So let us understand, we spoke about the regions or the different grades of matter in which the spirit manifests. So these are called as the planes. Now, the present cycle of human development, it takes place on the lower 5 planes. We know that there are 7 planes as per these theosophical teachings.
Vibha
Not
ji?
audible. Not audible.
Yes, no,
Vibha
she's not
ji,
audible.
yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
don't know how it got muted. Now is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'll just start this slide again. So I was talking about the 7 planes in which manifestation happens. So the lowermost plane is the physical plane, in which we have the physical body, the pran, and the etheric body. The second plane is the astral plane, which is the principle of calm, it manifests. Third is the mental plane, which is the plane where the manas manifests. Then the upper two are the spiritual plane, the plane of buddhi and atma. The sixth and seventh plane, though in later literature their names have been given as Adi and Anupadak. Adi is the seventh plane, Anupadak is the sixth plane. So man's nature, when he develops fully, he can work consciously on all of these 7 planes. Presently also we find that he is able to work on the lower 3 planes, the physical, astral and mental. We do all our actions, our work on the physical plane. When we are in a fit of passion or emotion, we are actually working on the astral plane. And when we are in deep thought, or we are deeply thinking some idea, some philosophical concept, or working very diligently, then we are working on the mental plane. And it so happens that when we are engrossed, say suppose if we are engrossed in deep thought, then we will hardly be aware of our bodily requirements, hunger or thirst. So we are not aware on the physical plane, but we are working on mental plane. Similarly, if we think of a soldier who's fighting in battle, he might be wounded, but he may not even be aware of it because he is totally concentrated on the astral plane in a fit of passion. So man can live on several planes and be conscious on them. And it is our endeavor to become conscious on the higher planes. Currently, we work on the lower 3 planes, physical, astral, mental. Now, these planes, they are grouped into 2. So we have the lower 3 planes. We have the physical plane on which our lower 3 principles are there, the physical body, etheric body, and pran, and the astral plane on which the principle of calm is there. So these lower 4 principles, they form the quaternary or the mortal part of human being. And the higher 3 planes, that is the higher 3 principles, that is Atma, Buddhi, Manas, they form the upper triad. They are the immortal or the deathless part of man's nature. They will endure from one incarnation to the next. So this is how man is constituted and grouped. Now we will begin with the first principle, that is the dense physical body. We know that our physical body is made up of material particles. And this body has the 5 sense organs, the 5 organs of actions, and the nervous system. Now, it is the Theosophical view that the human body is constituted of innumerable lives. What is this innumerable lives? It is basically the principle which gives us life. We will see that in detail when we do the third principle, that is calm. So it is considered a particle of life. And please keep in mind that all of this comes from the one absolute. So what we say, the one life, it will manifest as innumerable lives on this material plane. So this each particle of life which is there, it is the same, whether it is in some other being or whether it is in man. Ant, mountain, flower, elephant, all of them contain the same innumerable lives. And these lives, they are both life-giving and death-giving. How they are this, we will see when we are discussing pran. So in all our physical bodies, the microscopic beings which are there, under the influence of this invisible lives or the infinitesimal lives, these microbes, they build up the material of the cells and they hold the cell together. That is how our body remains together and it is alive. But when this energy of these innumerable lives, when that vitality, it withdraws, then at that time, these microbes do not receive that energy and they act as destructive agents. So the cell disintegrates and physical death of the body occurs. So we should understand that death is only an aspect of life, and destroying this material form doesn't mean that the man is annihilated. In fact, the material of this form, it will go on further and it will constitute to build up another form. Now coming to the next principle, which is our etheric body. Etheric body also exists on the physical plane, but it is made up of matter which is more subtle than the dense plane. Every plane, it has 7 grades of matter. So there are 7 subdivisions. On the physical plane also, the lower 3 subplanes, solid, liquid, gas, that makes up the gross body. And the upper 3 subdivisions, that is the etheric matter, which is very subtle, and the etheric double body is constituted of that matter. So it is not perceptible to our 5 senses because it is so subtle. In spite of that, that etheric body is an exact replica of the dense body. And in a normal person, it will not separate from the physical body. It will remain together. But in mediums are there, those people, they are able to separate it partially from themselves. This etheric body, it is very closely associated to the dense body, so that if the etheric body is injured, then sometimes it may so happen that that injury appears on the physical body also. A very, I would say, pertinent example, we can say that some people who due to some accident or another reason, if their limb is amputated, any hand or leg is amputated, so this etheric body, it may not be amputated because its matter is very plastic. It is very fluidic. So maybe that the etheric matter is not amputated, but the physical limb is amputated. So the person continues to feel pain or sensation in the limb, which is no longer existing. That is called phantom limb. And also we have seen that mediums who are able to partially separate their etheric body, their vitality becomes very low because the pran principle, it circulates through the etheric body. So naturally, if they have partially separated their etheric body, the pran available for their gross body decreases. So here are some scientific facts on the superstition regarding this etheric double. When the mediums they communicate with the spirits, that is the people who have passed away, their physical body is no longer there, they are disembodied. So these mediums, they communicate with them and pass on the message to their living family. But what happens actually is the etheric double of the medium, it oozes out easily. And as I told you, its nature is very plastic. It is very fluidic. So the thought currents of the people who are there, mostly his family members or some people who are there, their thought currents shape that etheric double. Using this etheric double, some people, they can show tricks. What are those tricks? They can move an object without touching it. So actually they have learned to use their etheric body to ooze outside them and then effect this kind of movement. Then also around the time of a physical death of a person, the etheric body oozes out of the physical body and it is very close to the physical body. It will remain there because it does not want to separate. And to sensitive people, it might appear like a violet form of light. Till the time it is connected to the physical body by a slender thread. What is this slender thread? It is not a physical thread. It is basically a magnetic link through which the pran is still connected to the physical body. But as soon as that thread breaks, then the person dies. So this etheric double, it is still existing and it wants to enter that physical body. If the physical body is, if it is buried inside the ground, then that etheric body will remain near the grave because it wants to be together with the physical body. And that is why it is preferable cremation instead of burying the body. Because the moment cremation is done, then within a very small time, all the material, all the particles, whether physical or etheric, they are disintegrated and they return to their own plane. But if that etheric body keeps hovering over the grave, then again, to some sensitive people, it may be visible, that violet form, that violet light. And this gives rise to superstitions like there are ghosts. So we must guard against such misconceptions. Now we come to the third principle, that is pran. Remember, these three principles are all manifesting on the physical plane. Now, pran is that principle which gives life to the body, which makes it alive. And this is on the manifested plane. Actually, what is pran? It is the radiating energy of the Atma. Atma is the spirit. It is the universal, in the spirit's aspect of universal life. That is what becomes pran. See, what we should keep in our mind is that on every plane, it is the one reality which is manifesting in different forms. So in the aspect of universal life, it manifests as pran. And on this plane, the physical plane, it proceeds or it becomes the countless lives. This concept may not be very easy to understand. So I will explain with an example. When we think of light, okay, let us think of contemporary physics. Physics says that light is an electromagnetic radiation. So it is a wave and it is an energy, electromagnetic energy. But at the same time, science has also demonstrated that light can be thought of as particles. And the particles of light are photons. Okay, they are discrete packets of energy. So light, though it is indiscrete, it's a wave, but we can think of its particles as photons. Same way, this one life is that universal life energy, which is the energy of the spirit. But on the plane of manifestation, we can think of it as those countless fiery lives. Okay, so individual life atoms or particles of life. So we can think of ourselves like we are immersed, all the beings are immersed in this sea of universal life. For example, if you think of the ocean and that water is the sea of life, and you dip a piece of sponge in it. So the sponge will absorb the water from the ocean. Exactly like that, all the beings who are immersed in this ocean of life, they will embody this principle of life in them. So that principle of life in them is called as pran. It is the third principle, and it manifests on the seventh subdivision of the physical plane. Okay, so that is in the etheric body. It circulates through the etheric body, through which it passes into the gross body. It is synthesized by the spleen, and then it is spread into all parts of the physical body. So etheric double is the vehicle of pran. I hope the principle of pran is clear, because I also took a lot of study through the secret doctrine to understand what are those fiery lives. And HPB has clearly mentioned that there is a distinction between pran and the microbes. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Okay, so I have this description I have taken from secret doctrine only, where HPB mentioned that fiery lives, they are manifesting on the seventh and highest subdivision of the plane of matter. And they correspond with the one life. So this we saw on the plane of reality, it is the one life, but on the manifested plane, it is the fiery lives, which we can say are distinct life particles. And the microbes of science are something different from it. The microbes receive this vital energy from the pran and hold our physical body together. When they don't receive the vital energy, then the cell structure is destroyed. So that is the builders and the destructors. That is the function of these, the vital energy and the function of the microbes. Now we come to our next principle, the fourth principle, which is our desire body. Desire body is also known as the Kam Roop or the animal soul. So this, it functions on the astral plane. Now, what is Kam? In simple terms, we say Kam is desire. All our feelings and emotions, all the passions that we experience, like jealousy or hate or even love, compassion, that is all Kam. All our basic instinctual needs, The animal needs, they are called, like hunger, thirst, sexual desire. This all comes under the principle of calm. And calm is the most material principle. It binds us to this earth. It is what which keeps us in the cycle of life and death. This calm principle, it is our innate desire for sentient experience. What is sentient? Sentient means the ability to perceive, the ability to experience the sensations, the feelings. See, even plants, they are also sentient because plants can also respond to feelings, to good music or to sound. Plants are able to respond. So that had been proved sometime back in science. So this desire for sentient experience, it comes through this principle, the fourth principle, the principle of calm. Now, this principle of calm, lower than that is on the material plane, we have the third principle, which is pran, and higher than that is the principle of manas, the fourth principle. So when calm tries to unite with the lower manas, then that becomes the normal working human intelligence. It is our brain intelligence. Okay, this passion or the instinct which we saw, the desire of calm, that is guided by thought, by reason, by logic. So that is the normal human brain intelligence, calm manas. And when calm is joined to pran, that is the one step lower principle, that becomes the vital sentient principle in us. Sentient, we have explained, it is the desire to experience sensation. So along with this pran, this principle of calm will spread over every particle in our body, because pran is circulating through etheric body, it goes into the physical body, and it is circulating throughout the physical body. And when the calm principle is joined to it, it becomes a living, vital, sentient principle, which is spread over every cell, every particle of our body. And our seat of sensation, that is in calm, in this principle of calm. Therefore, it is on the astral plane, in our astral body. Many times, many people had this question that we have the physical sense organs in the physical body, but how come the centers of sensation are in the astral body? This is the reason, because calm is that principle, which is the principle of sensation, principle of desire. And it enables these sense organs to function by translating the sensory vibration into feelings. So feelings is the consciousness on the karmic plane. Now we are saying feelings is the consciousness on karmic plane. What does this mean? Consciousness. All these words are, we should keep understanding what is their definition, what it means. What is consciousness? I am aware. So the real man, the I. And who is I? I is the spirit. So what does it mean? It means that the spirit, it manifests on the astral plane as calm. Okay, we will see later. The spirit manifests on mental plane as manas. The spirit manifests on astral plane as calm. It is manifestation of that one reality. It is the one reality which is manifesting in all the planes. Okay, so feelings is nothing but consciousness on karmic plane. Now, this desire body, how is it and how it functions? So we know it is on the astral plane. It is made up of astral matter, the elemental essence, it is called, of that matter. And in that plane, the self can gain experience through this vehicle. Okay. Now, when we are sleeping, this astral body escapes. All the planes are interpenetrating. So the astral body is also interpenetrating the physical body. But during sleep, it escapes and it remains close by. Mind is almost asleep in that, because we are not trained. We are not trained to use that astral body. So mind is almost asleep. And we cannot use it as an independent vehicle of consciousness unless we are trained to do so. And this body, it is existing in astral plane, so it is getting affected by the forces of the astral plane. What is the constitution of that astral body? So astral plane also has 7 subdivisions, depending on whether we have coarse feelings, coarse passions. So the material of the astral body will depend on that. It will depend on which it is made out of, which subplane of the astral matter. And it will be able to respond to only similar vibrations from the astral plane. Okay. And these vibrations which are affecting the astral body, they give rise to dreams. Of course, they are also influenced by the own thought of that person during his waking state, what kind of thoughts he had. Okay. And the astral vibrations which are affecting the astral body during sleep. Now, a person who's of an average intellect, the average person, his mind will be active in that, but it is the astral body encloses it like a shell. So he will not be conscious of his astral surroundings. He can function in that astral body, but he cannot still use it as an independent vehicle of consciousness. Now, what is the meaning of independent vehicle of consciousness? It means that while the person is sleeping, physical body is sleeping, he can still work in the astral world by using this astral body of his. So he can travel to any distance, he can do any work, he can meet any person in their astral body. That is the work in astral body. But unless you are trained, you cannot use that vehicle as an independent vehicle of consciousness. Only the highly evolved man can do it through training. For such a man, the astral body is highly organized and it is vitalized, and it becomes like an exact replica of his physical body. For most ordinary people, it is just limited to dreams. Now, this we saw what happens to desire body during sleep. Now, let us see what happens to desire body after death. After death, physical body is no more. On the physical plane, we had the gross body, the etheric body, and the pran. Now they are no longer there, they perish. So the higher principles of man, they will remain in the desire body for a little while. And for how long they will stay in the desire body, it depends on the constitution of the astral body, how gross the astral particles are, or how delicate and subtle the astral particles are. So depending on that, it will persist, the astral body. Then after a while, the higher principles will separate from the astral body. So astral body just remains as an empty shell. Manas, that is the thinking principle, will separate. So it is just an empty shell which has no thinking principle of its own. Such empty shells are called spook. Now, this is very important because we need to understand the real concept. There are many misconceptions about these ghosts, as I told you. So there is nothing like ghost. What is it? It is this empty shell. Now, if the person, while in his earth life, if he had a very passionate nature, strong emotions, and very low mentality, then his shell, after the person passes away, his shell, which is this desire body, it will be galvanized. It will be infused with a consciousness, which is of a very low order. It is almost animal-like. Brute cunning is animal-like. And we must remember that this principle, this shell, it has no thinking principle. It is working only on tendency and the force which is still remaining, the force of passion which is still remaining. So it is working like on the physical plane, we say he's working mechanically without thinking. And these spooks, they will go to places where their animal desires can be satisfied. So wherever on earth they find places where people are indulging in these kind of things, drinking and alcohol and meat eating and excessive sexualness, they are attracted to those places. And the spook will remain, it will persist. As we said, its duration of persistence depends on how strongly passionate was the nature of the man while he was still living. Because that energy, his energy of passion, will energize this spook. If it was very strong, the spook will persist for a longer time. But if during the earth life, the person had conquered all his desires, he had become a purified person, loving, compassionate, service-oriented, then he has made subservient to his mind his passional nature. And then this desire body will disintegrate very quickly after death, because these lower forces are not there to keep that mechanical action of the shell. Now, what happens in case a person dies accidentally? In such, the person may be very good, he may be a very noble spiritual type of person, but in case his physical life is cut short by accident, then the link between Kam and Pran, that is not easily broken. So the principle of Kam, it is still galvanized by this force of Pran, and the shell will persist for a longer duration. That is why people say that if the person has accidentally met his physical death, then he will not die, he will remain as a ghost. But those are all misconceptions. The real reason is because the link between Kam and Pran is not easily broken when such cases occur. So these four lower principles which we have seen, they are called the quaternary. That is, in the diagram taken from this book, the physical body, which is mentioned as Sthul Sharir, the principle of Kam, which is Pran, the astral body or the Ling Sharir, and the principle of Kam. So these four form the lower quaternary, but this is a transient personality. They are called personality and they perish after a while of the physical death. The real man, we said, is immortal. He is the thinker. And without this thinking principle, this lower quaternary is just an animal. It is only this mind which enables man to come or to recognize his real nature, that is the spirit. And this is the object of our existence, to recognize who we really are. We are the immortal spirit. So what happens that in this cycle of evolution, in every birth, one by one, these principles are evolving, and the higher principles, they are remaining latent. So there was a time when all these lower four principles evolved, but the mind had still not evolved. It had not activated. So we will see how that next principle or the Manas principle was activated. So in this book, Annie Besant has given in a very poetic form how the lower four principles evolved one by one. And it is given in detail in the Secret Doctrine, but we won't go in detail in this stanza. As I told you that in the cycle of evolution, one by one, the lower principles evolved, but the mind was still latent. To activate the mind, how did that happen? That is what we will focus on now. So we come to this chapter 6, in which actually I have come quite quickly through the first four principles, because we should spend a lot of time on the fifth principle, that is Manas. It is the thinker or the mind. And then we will have a look at the subtle forms of the fourth and fifth principle. So now what is Manas? Manas is the thinker. He is the real I. I am. I am because I think. Okay, Rene Descartes said that. So this is the immortal individual which does not perish. This principle is what clothes itself in these transient personalities which which perish after every physical life. And then this Manas is the principle which will endure and continue and inhabit the next personality. Therefore, these personalities are called as shadows. In Voice of Silence, very beautifully it is mentioned, thy shadows live and vanish. That which in thee shall live forever, that which in thee knows, for it is knowledge. So Manas is equated or compared to knowledge itself. It is not fleeting life. It is the man that was, that is, and will be, for whom the hour shall never strike. Hour shall never strike means it will never perish. So it is written poetically in Voice of Silence. The Manas is divine in its real nature, because it is a ray of the divine thought. but still it is not pure. Why? Because it is manifested on this mental plane. It has become conditioned. And to become one with its source, it has to purify its nature. That is the goal. That is the reason we cannot recognize ourselves as spirit, because we have become conditioned and we have identified ourselves with the lower principles. So by purifying manas, we can recognize our real nature. And that is the goal. That is why HPB has given so much stress on purification of the mind, on purification of our thought. Cultivating purity, that is what she says is the goal of your theosophic life. Now, how do we cultivate purity? We can cultivate purity as we pass incarnation after incarnation, as we pass through each personality. And this individuality which we are, this is the immortal individuality, that is the higher principles. We have to pass through every experience and every feeling that is there in the manifested universe. And slowly then we progress to the higher principles, and that is how we purify our mind. So as we said that manas, in its real nature, in its very essence, it is thought. How it is thought? Because it is a ray of the universal mind. Universal mind is the undivided, all-pervading principle. Universal mind is the spirit. Universal mind is the Atma. Universal mind is the self with capital S. So call it whatever you want, that one absolute reality. Mind is just a ray of that. So in the aspect of divine thought, mind is a ray of that. So its essence is that of thought. And it is manifested on the mental plane. So it is called Manasputra. Manas means mind. Manasputra, which is born of the divine thought. It is the sons of the universal mind. This word Manasputra, HPB has used a lot, and Annie Besant has also mentioned the same in her book, that mind is Manasputra. Oh, okay. Okay. So this individualized thought, that becomes the human ego, which is the persistent individuality, which will persist after every personality perishes. And this human ego is what will incarnate in the lower quaternary, which is nothing but a body of flesh and bones. These are called the incarnating egos, the individualized principle of manas. Okay. So as we saw that in the cycle of evolution, the principles were evolved one after the other. Now the lower four principles were evolved, that became the animal man, because we had the physical body, the etheric body, pran, and the principle of calm, which is the principle of desire and instinct. It is the same as in animals. So it was just an animal man. Now how did manas be activated in man, and why it is not activated in animals? So we spoke about Manasputra, which is the manifestation of divine mind on the mental plane. Now Manasputra, there are many grades of these intelligences, which we are calling Manasputra. For example, we have read about the sons of flame, the lords of Venus who came to earth in the middle of the third root race. They are the sons of flame. And for these beings, they are so lofty beings. They completed their human evolution far, far back in time. We don't even have any conception of that time. It must be in the previous Mahamanvantar. Then in this hierarchy of intelligences of Manasputra, there are also those entities who have gained their individualization just in the preceding cycle of our own cycle. So when we speak in terms of cosmic duration, we are saying that, oh, it is just the previous cycle. But for a human being whose lifespan is like, from 80 years to 120 years, now it's a very, very long time. So those entities who have gained individualization in the cycle preceding our own, they are now ready to incarnate on this earth to accomplish their human stage of evolution. So what happens is that the higher grades of beings, whom we are calling sons of flames, these superhuman intelligences, they incarnated on earth as our guides and the teachers of infant humanity. So this is another concept, how humans evolved on the earth. There are those 7 root races, and one by one these root races, each of the human principles matured in each of these races. So at that time, to guide those races, the human races, these higher lofty beings, they incarnated as guides and teachers, and they became the divine rulers of the ancient civilizations. They became the founders of many civilizations. Now we read about so many, the Egyptian civilization, the Mayan civilization, so many other ancient civilization whom we read that they were very advanced. They had a much advanced technology. So how it all happened to be? Because of such beings who came to guide humanity. And also in that same hierarchy of Manasputra, those entities who had recently gained individualization, they incarnated in the animal man. Animal man meaning in whom the manas was inactive, it was latent. Only the lower quaternary was there. So they were mindless men. Animal man. Those beings, they incarnated in such quaternaries, in such mindless men, which was merely a human frame. They are called the reincarnating Manasputra, because that principle on the mental plane, what is that principle? It is the manifestation of divine thought on the mental plane. So an individual sentient manifestation on the divine plane, it is incarnating in that lower quaternary. So this makes that quaternary now the manas principle in that becomes active. And this divine thought, it is immortal. This Manasputra, it is immortal because it is same in essence as the spirit. So that becomes the immortal part of man, the real thinking man. That is called the human soul. This is our 5th principle. And it is very important to understand this very, very nicely. It doesn't matter if you have to read this manual once again and try to understand it again. The human soul, the manas, is immortal. It is same in essence as the divine thought, and it will persist incarnation after incarnation. Okay, so this happened by those beings who themselves incarnated in the lower quaternary. Now, what about the rest of the mankind? Their germ of mind was also latent. But in many of such people, the Manasputra themselves did not incarnate, but they projected a ray. So they themselves are the principle of Manas. They are projecting a ray, meaning their Manas principle is projected, which activated or which simulated into growth the latent Manas principle of those animal man. So that became the human soul of those remaining people in whom Manasputra themselves did not incarnate, but they activated the mind principle by projecting their ray in such men. So the human soul of men in whom Manasputra themselves incarnated, human soul of men in which only a ray was projected, and this happened over a period of ages. So you see, the human soul was born not all together in the entire mankind, but in different periods of time, over a period of time, we can say. This is called the soul age, which we speak about so much in Theosophical literature, that a child, he is a child, but he still might be very wise because he has a very long soul age. Okay, or an elderly person, he is elderly in physical age, but his human soul, his soul age might be very small or short. This constitutes the differences in the mental capability of people, which we see, that even a small child can talk very wisely. Now, okay, let us understand how Manas works when it is incarnated. So we saw how through the Manasputra, the mind principle was activated in the animal man. Now, Manas has, when it is in incarnation, that means when it is in this material plane, when it is activated in the lower quaternary, it has a twofold nature. Just like we saw the nature of Kam was tending towards Manas and it was also tending towards Pran. So same way, now Manas will tend towards its next higher principle, which is the Buddhic principle, and the lower principle is Kam. So when a child is to be born, then in which family he is born, which body, which human body he has to get into, this is all decided by the karma done in previous incarnations, the causes generated in previous incarnations. Okay. Ego, please remember, ego is the manas, which is united to Atma Buddhi, that is the individuality, the immortal individuality, which has to be born in the physical body. So in which physical body this individuality or the ego will be born, it is decided by the karma done in the previous incarnations. This ego is the spiritual ray of the divine mind, and it is belonging to the mental plane. So when it is born, it cannot influence the physical body of that baby. It cannot bring, what does it mean to influence? It means it cannot make the physical molecules vibrate because it belongs to a plane which is 2 times higher than physical. There is an astral plane in middle. Okay. So what happens, the principle of manas, it will project part of its own substance. This ray, projected ray, it will be clothed in astral matter. And then it will be clothed in the etheric matter. And then through the nervous system of that child, which is still to be born, through that nervous system, it will spread in the entire body. So this is what forms the thinking principle. So as the body of that child, which is still, he is unborn, as his body is maturing, this is how the principle of manas comes into the child. Now it is very interesting if we study in the medical sciences, the science of embryology, how a child is born. Medical science still does not recognize all these higher principles of man. It is, as far as medical science is concerned, it recognizes only the physical development of the embryo. But if we study this occult science, which tells how these principles permeate that physical apparatus, how it is born, that is very interesting. Now this reflection or the shadow ray of that manas, it is called the lower manas. Okay, because it has clothed itself in astral matter. It becomes the its brain intelligence of the person when he will be born. And once incarnate, this is how the manas becomes dual, because it was actually a principle on the mental plane, but it has projected itself, and through the astral plane, now it is also influencing the physical plane. So this is why manas is called a dual principle. The manas principle, which is on the mental plane, it is forever aspiring back to its source. Its source is the divine thought. So it is always aspiring heavenwards towards Atma Buddhi. This is its innate nature. It is there in everybody, in every being, that urge to go back to the source. That is what is called higher manas. And the rational thinking principle through calm, which is now permeating the body and guiding the body and making decisions, thinking logically, analyzing, this is called the lower manas, the rational thinking manas. Now this manas, once it is manifested, what are the factors that affect its manifestation? Why the mental capacity of one person is different from the other? So in brief, we have already seen it. I will quickly explain this once again. See, egos are all the same. What is the ego? Ego is essentially, it is coming from the mental principle, the divine thought which manifested on the mental plane. So it is individualized. That is the ego. And it is the same for all, because it is of the essential nature of manas is same as the divine thought. So ego of everybody is essentially the same. But when it works through the principle of calm, when it works through the physical brain apparatus. That is what will affect the manifestation of the Manasik light on the lower planes. If the karmic nature is not pure, then it will soil the Manasik light also. Very passional, very emotional nature. It will soil the Manasik nature. If the brain apparatus is not fully developed, if it is damaged while the child was being born, if the brain apparatus is incompletely developed, then also the ability for the manas to manifest itself will be hindered. The Manasik light will not shine forth. That is what is the word Annie Besant uses. Now, the karmic nature and the brain apparatus. This depends on what? It depends on the karma of the person. All the karma which he created in his previous incarnations. So actually the karma is imposing a limitation on this karmic nature and apparatus, which in turn is limiting the manifestation of the thinking principle. And the capacity, the mental ability of each person is different. Also in the previous slides, we have seen the soul age. So that is another factor. It is an inherent factor. About soul age, we cannot do anything. It was when the human, when the human soul was activated in each quaternary. That is the soul age. So that also affects the mental development. How much evolution, mental evolution has happened. It is inherent, it cannot be changed. But the second factor, which is due to the result of karma, that can be changed. Because karma is in our control. We decide what karma we have to do. So by that, by purifying our karmic nature, by having a proper brain development, that will depend to a lot of extent on the mother who's bearing the child. So due to all those things, the mental capability can be increased. So, okay, we have not completed Manas, but I think we will stop here because it is already 1 hour, and then we can continue. We will continue this book in the next session. So with this, I close the session, the study for today. And if anybody would like to discuss something, we can do that.
Yes, ma'am, I would like to raise a question. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for getting designated as a national lecturer.
Thank
I
you.
really like your lectures, and it's very, it's understandable at least. Yes, my question is regarding ego that you mentioned.
Yes.
So as you mentioned that ego is the ray of the divine, right?
Yes.
And this is what incarnates.
Yes.
But my question is as far as Bhakti Marg is concerned, ego is considered as an obstacle for uniting with the divine source. So could you please throw light on this?
Okay. So as we have seen that Manas together with the higher spiritual principles, that is Atma Buddhi, that forms the immortal man or the ego. And while the Manas is incarnate, its nature is dual. It will tend towards the lower principles, which is calm. And that is what is becoming the hindrance in uniting with your real nature. What happens is that when the mind is totally purified, then there will be no tendency moving towards the lower principle. Manas will be totally purified. It will not mingle with calm, and it will move upwards towards its source. So when the ego is purified and it is assimilated by the higher spiritual principles, then it recognizes the real nature. So in Bhakti Marg, that is why this ego, what is ego? It is the manas which is tending towards calm. It becomes a hindrance. It does not allow the bhakta to become one with his object of devotion.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Beautifully explained. Yes, Mr. Hemant, please unmute yourself and please also open your video so we can see you.
Sorry, ma'am, because of connectivity issues, I cannot on my camera. Sorry for that. Thank you, Vibha ma'am, for this wonderful talk.
Thank you.
I just would like to, I just have one, I just need one clarity.
Yes.
We usually, we study the lower quaternary as the physical, etheric, astral and lower mental. And lower mental also in the quaternary.
Just a minute, can you speak a little louder? We can't hear you.
Okay. What I'm saying is we usually study in the theosophical literature that the physical, etheric, uh, astral, and lower mental makes the lower quadrant.
Okay.
You know,
What is your question? Hmm.
so but in one of the slides you mentioned that the prana is also the one of the the principle. Can you explain this? And there is one more thing, as you said that consciousness or awareness is our real nature.
Mhm.
What our consciousness take the first garment, the first the principle will be what?
Uh,
We
okay.
usually say, yeah, atma, usually we usually use that as our real nature, but atma is a real nature or atma is a plane? These two questions, please, ma'am.
Okay, sure. I will try to answer as best as I have understood from the Theosophic literature. We have many learned people available with us, so perhaps they can also throw some light on it. What I have understood is, first thing you mentioned about pran, right? Why pran is one lower principle. Because see, as I told you, now going back again to the beginning, keep in your mind that there is only one reality. Everything what we are studying are just manifestations of that one spirit, of that one reality. Now, the aspect of one reality as life principle, when we say one life, oh hidden life, vibrant in every atom. So it is that one life which is manifesting on the material plane as pran, which is giving life to every material particle, every material cell. That is pran. So HPB has given that as the third principle. I think, see, classifying manifestation as principles, you can classify it in any way, whether you do it as 7 principles, or if you take Vedant, if you take Sankhya, if you take any other school of philosophy, they have the Panchakosh, they have the Panchapran, and there are various ways of classifying. What you need to understand is lower manas is not a separate principle. Lower manas is mingling with the principle of calm. That is called calm manas. So calm manas is classified as the fourth principle. And these lower three principles, that is the gross physical body, gross body, solid, liquid, gas, and etheric body, which is the upper 4 subdivisions of physical plane. So it is still physical. Okay. So that physical body, which has gross and etheric, and in which the prana is circulating. These are the lower 3 principles. Fourth principle is the principle of calm, in which manas has assimilated the the ray projected by the manas from the mental plane, which assimilates with calm, becomes the lower manas. So it is not a separate fourth principle. Calm manas is the fourth principle. You can say that way. Okay, so
I
this
Thanks.
think
was
this
This
was
is clear,
clearly
ma'am.
decided. I think when Andy Besant took over after HP. I mean, there was a discussion. This sevenfold, including prana, was HPB's earlier version, and then she and Besant decided that let's not keep prana as a separate body and have the sevenfold with lower manas as the fourth instead of prana.
okay. But in this book, 7 Principles, the diagram which I showed, so she herself has written about pran. But anyway, what is important is to understand what each principle means.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Can you please give some little clarification on that, the second question, if you have any idea about it?
What is the second question once again?
If awareness or the consciousness, suppose it's our real nature, then what will be the first principle?
Okay. So again, I always come back to my approach is from universal to the individuals. So I come back to that one reality, which is the spirit, the all-pervading absolute, whatever you want to call it, on its own plane. That means on the plane of reality, the spirit is there. Now the spirit is there. See, in the beginning itself, HPB says that you cannot, it is unthinkable and unimaginable. You cannot describe it, you cannot understand it. But if we are going to study it, how can we think about it? We have to have some concept to think about it, right? So she has said that you can consider it. She gives 3 aspects: space, which is eternal and abstract; duration, which is eternal time. We call it as a mahakal. Mahakal, eternal time, eternal space, and eternal motion. She says these are not three separate attributes. These are the aspects of that same one absolute. These are just the aspects. So when we say space, that becomes the attribute of Mula Prakriti, the material aspect, or what is called the Upadan Karan, material cause. And we can think only about that. What is the efficient cause? It is the motion. And we cannot have any concept about it. It is called the great breath. That is the Nimitta Karan. These two Sanskrit words even HPB has used in secret doctrine. Upadan Karan is the material cause, and Nimitta Karan, that is the efficient cause, of which we can have no conception. Okay, and eternal duration is like the periods of manifestation and non-manifestation, and that cycle is endless, so it is eternal duration. But there will be a definite period of manifestation, which is Srishti, and then an equivalent definite period of homogeneous or non-manifestation, which is Pralay. Now coming to your question about what is consciousness. So this periodic manifestation, it is called the great breath. And it is, she writes just one sentence in the secret doctrine, that when the hour of manifestation strikes, this great breath assumes the form of divine thought. Okay, so this divine thought and that material aspect was the eternal space, which is, you can refer it to Mula Prakriti. So that forms the 7 planes, the material planes of manifestation. And this divine thought is the, we can say it becomes the source, or we can refer every individual consciousness to this source. Every thinking principle is referred to the divine thought. And this divine thought will so this divine thought itself is the spirit. It is that all-pervading spirit, the Atma, the one self with capital S, and it will manifest on every grade of matter. Matter has come, the source referable was Mula Prakriti. So when this divine thought is manifesting on every grade of matter, it manifests as different principles. For example, on the plane, astral plane, it manifested as calm, as passion. On the mental plane, it manifested as manas. Manas, which becomes aware, which thinks. So that is what we are, the thinking principle, which becomes conscious on a plane. Because spirit cannot function on lower planes of matter by itself. It needs a vehicle. So manas will take up this mental body. That calm will take up the astral body. And through that, we become conscious. But what are we? We are that divine thought, which is becoming conscious, which is having that desire, which is thinking. So that was my understanding through the secret doctrine. If perhaps Shindeji or somebody would like to say something, Ashok Lokhandeji, sir, please clarify more on this topic.
Thank you, Vibhaji. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Hemanji.
Yes, yes, Shindeji, who's a Bhishma Pitama. Good morning, sir.
Very good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Vibhaji, congratulations. Very nicely explained, and you have given very good explanation to every question also. And the discussion was on prana and atma and all that. And you have explained very nicely. We don't know much about the prana. What HPB says, we know only little prana. Lot of layers of prana are there,
yes,
which need to be go deep into it. Prana is that thing which provides us vitality. So vitality on all planes. Again, that prana is different what we study on lower planes. On higher planes, that prana is again different. We have to go deep into it. And secondly, what the spirit, body and soul, all these, spiritual plane is different, soul plane is different, And body plane is different, as we have said, 7 planes. So once we understand, all these are intermingled. There is integrity of spirit, soul, and body. Complete integrity is there. And if spirit wants to function on these planes, there is the body for the spirit to function on spiritual plane, and also there is body for spirit to function on the physical plane. So we can explain. Soul is the center. Atma Buddhi Manasa, you said. Soul has body to be active on physical, emotional, and astral plane. Soul also has the, itself is the body. Soul itself is the body. Besides these lower bodies, soul itself is the body, which is for acting on the spiritual plane. So soul is the body to act on spiritual plane, and soul has the body to act on physical plane. So this is what we have to understand. So soul is the important, which is said to be immortal. But I remember here what Jalaluddin Gibran said. Bodies are ashes. What we plane we study. Bodies are ashes and soul is fire. Soul is fire and bodies are ashes. So we must make our all desires, kama manasa, as ashes means we make them a fiery aspiration. So if we make them fiery aspiration, then from that ashes, we can rise to the spiritual plane like a phoenix bird which rises from the ashes. So if we understand in different manner, as we go more and more deeper and deeper into the study of Theosophy, something is revealed individually. To everyone it is revealed. And I congratulate Vibha Saksena ji. She has gone very deep and very rightly she is explained and explaining and will explain in future also. So she has good future. Congratulations very much. And also thanks for good questions asked and discussions held. Thank you, Vimalji, giving me this opportunity.
Thank you,
Thank
sir,
you.
for blessing our program and always giving us such positive feedback to all the speakers. Now we have to end the session, though we wouldn't like to let go of Vibhaji and her vast knowledge.